Welcome to a dose of deeper contemplation. We have cultivated this self-healing practice as we navigate the many aspects of modern life with the desire to be a better human. As a psychic medium, these conversations are channeled, so let's take a walk together and talk it out. Interesting contemplation around sex. What a topic. What a topic. What we are present with this day is the purging, if you will, of energy that's happening on a regular by being in a state of celibacy. And part of this ride that we would go on is a belief in an understanding of what the energetic side of sex is. Now, in so many ways, this is also the teachings around Tantra or sacred sexuality, overall understanding that the act of sex, right, creates a feeling of pleasure. And that pleasure is an energy because it's a feeling. And it can be intense, but for the most part, pleasure is pleasure. It feels good. And the thing about humans is we like to feel good. Now, good is relative. Folks feel good in different ways. And there can be an imbalance associated with that as well. But for the sake of today's conversation, we're going to keep this close to the understanding that sexual acts are of pleasure between two consenting beings. Let's leave it in that world. Sex and pleasure is also a spectrum. It comes in all forms. So many folks just understood this as penetration. And for the longest time, we did too. Until we started to learn more and explore and expand and realize it's so much more. So what's interesting about celibacy is exploring pleasure without penetration. Because what penetration does is it literally brings one energy inside the energy. Our energy, right? Like inside our body. And it's kind of one of the most intense, let's say, embodied acts as human beings that we can do when it comes to energetic exchange. And so there was a reflection on this, what feels like a purging of many energetic exchanges. And sitting here understanding that, it's going to take a while. It's going to take a while to be in a space without penetration. Doesn't mean it's without pleasure, but without penetration. And that's an amazing thing about having female genitalia is like, holy crap, the pleasure that can be experienced without penetration is insane. It's amazing. However, for a long time, we were held captive by the narrative that actually wasn't true and that our pleasure was completely wrapped up in penetration. And so grateful to be free of that narrative. And therefore coming into this space, again, celibacy, right, from penetration. And so it's providing this like detox, this detox of that energy. And when we have done plant medicine journeys in which that journey requires a purging, it's deeply connected for us. And what was downloaded is helping pull out those deep-seated energies of those who have penetrated our body. Now, what's interesting is we're like, we've had a lot of sex. Here's what's fascinating in this moment and a great misogyny check, right? So we say that we've had a lot of sex and curious as to see what is the first thing that comes to your mind. It could be an array of things depending on your own perspective of someone who has said, we've had a lot of sex in our lives so far and we're not done. So Now, there has been a historical narrative that's attached to that as like, oh, slut. But what's so interesting about that is that we didn't say, oh, we had a lot of partners. It's that we had a lot of sex. And what's even more interesting about that is an exploration of a sexual partner coming into a space of curiosity. Does that have to mean a relationship? Or can it just mean another being that you feel safe connecting with in that way, that you feel good about their energy and they feel good about yours? And that might just be for a moment. Permanency is an illusion. It seems at this point in time where we're so happy being selectively single that would be an ideal setup. Though not sure how that would go in some sort of search, if you will. What are you looking for? Just a sexual partner. That's it. Just sex. A sexual partner. You like sex. We like sex. We'll figure it all out along the way. But you know what? Here's a partnership and it's just sexual. The way that this would work, quote unquote, because without it being in the world of relationships, because that's a different type of connection, is that there is authentic agreement on both sides. That is the arrangement. But with that is respect, of course, and with that is care. And with that may feel like love, but it's simple. It's not complicated by a narrative or an agenda that therefore we must now own each other in some way, instead of actually reflecting on one of the most beautiful aspects of love, and that is seeing the other for who they are, honoring their life's journey and your own. It sounds like such a beautiful, interesting experience, especially having only experienced, for the most part, one type of journey in the world of relationships and connections, and that's under monogamy. That was under, for a time, marriage. That was for a time under an agenda to advance a relationship towards something like marriage. So dating, under the mindset that there was some sort of completion in life that we would finally experience when we had the one. And without it, there's just something that's so painfully missing. And to have seen now that's just another construct. Doesn't mean that we can't have soulful, intentional, amazing, mindful, up-leveled, uplifted, elevated, vibrational connections with other folks. Yes. But the best use of our presence and endeavors and energy is not in the pursuit of that, the pursuit of finding a relationship, a person other than ourselves to provide anything for us in life, even love, even tenderness when we need it, even touch when we need it, even in loneliness, to find this space like, but are we alone, or are we in unity consciousness? Are we alone, or can we walk down to the ocean and know that we're being totally held by Mother in that space, whether there's another person around or not? And listen, sex is on that list. Have sex with yourself. Like, whatever the definition of sex that you would normally act upon. Okay, let's call it, we'll give some context. Foreplay, right? A date, a something that you would say, oh, there is going to be sex tonight, right? Okay, so same thing. Apply the same thing to self-pleasure, to self-sex, even as an experiment. Why not? Especially if you feel like you are in need of it. And without that other around, you don't get what you need with pleasure. In that space, just start to explore. Observe that that's the need that's coming up. And simply ask, is this something I can give to myself? Maybe, even a little bit. Let's try. And take a deep breath. Start to indulge in your senses. What feels good to you? What tastes good to you? What's fun? A nice warm bath? Do it. Take a glass of wine? Do it. Joint? Do it. Rub yourself in beautiful scented oil? Do it. Give yourself a massage? Yeah. Perhaps the key to this exploration for ourselves is, of course, to be in the magic of that. Exploring the depths of our own self-pleasure, exploring the depths of self-sex, exploring the depths of self-dating, and holding an invitational space for anyone of that same frequency to be invited and attracted in. The experiment here for ourselves is to not find the sexual partner, but to attract the sexual partner. Right? To magnetize. And in order to magnetize, we must become that frequency ourselves. And the more we practice this self-pleasure, the stronger the frequency. Thank you for being in this contemplation. This is Deep Dose, and we are Eden.